Australians awoke to an unsettling reality in February 2025. A powerful Chinese naval task force was operating near their shores. This task force, designated Task Force 107, consisted of advanced warships. These included the Type 055 destroyer, the Type 054A frigate, and the Type 903 replenishment ship. Their presence so close to Australia was unprecedented. It raised immediate concerns about China's intentions in the region. The appearance of these warships was not a random event, it was a calculated move by Beijing. This was a clear signal of China's growing military might and its desire to project power far from its own shores. The task force's presence was a stark reminder of Australia's vulnerability in a region increasingly dominated by China's ambitions. The ship's movements were closely watched by Australian defence officials and international observers. The task force's route was carefully planned to maximise its impact. It sailed through the strategically important Torres Strait, passed through the Coral Sea and conducted exercises in the Tasman Sea. The close proximity of the Chinese warships to Australia's mainland was a cause for alarm. It underscored the potential threat posed by China's expanding military capabilities. The incident served as a wake-up call for Australia. It forced the nation to confront the reality of China's growing assertiveness in the Indo-Pacific region. As the Chinese warships made their way towards Australia, the Australian Defence Force, or ADF, initiated efforts to monitor their movements. Surveillance aircraft were deployed, naval vessels were dispatched to shadow the task force. Australia was determined to keep a close eye on the Chinese ships and understand their intentions. The task force's voyage around Australia was marked by a series of encounters with Australian assets. On February 15th, the HMAS, an Anzac-class frigate, observed the And in the Coral Sea. This encounter highlighted the cat-and-mouse game being played by the two navies. Despite these efforts, there were significant gaps in Australia's surveillance capabilities. The ADF struggled to maintain continuous tracking of the Chinese ships. This raised concerns about Australia's ability to detect and respond to potential threats in its near region. The difficulties faced by the ADF in tracking the task force exposed vulnerabilities in Australia's maritime domain awareness. This incident served as a stark reminder of the need for increased investment in surveillance technologies and capabilities. Tensions escalated dramatically on February 21st when the Chinese task force conducted a live-fire exercise in the Tasman Sea. This exercise, involving the firing of missiles and artillery, took place just 300 nautical miles off the coast of Australia. It was a brazen display of military might in close proximity to Australian territory. What was particularly concerning was the Australian Defence Force's delayed response to the exercise. It was not the Australian military that first detected the live-fire exercise. It was a commercial pilot who overheard radio transmissions and alerted the authorities. The ADF was unaware of the exercise until 30 minutes after it had commenced. This delayed response exposed a critical gap in Australia's surveillance capabilities. It raised serious questions about Australia's ability to detect and respond to potential threats in real time. The incident served as a wake-up call for Australia, highlighting the need for improved maritime domain awareness. The live-fire exercise was widely condemned by Australian officials and international observers. It was seen as a provocative act that heightened tensions in the region. The incident led to calls for a strengthening of Australia's defence capabilities. The live-fire exercise was not only a political statement, but also a serious safety concern. The weapons used in the exercise had the potential to reach altitudes of up to 50,000 feet. This posed a direct risk to civilian aircraft operating in the area. It was a reckless disregard for international norms and the safety of civilian air traffic. International maritime law requires nations to provide advance notice before conducting live-fire exercises in international waters. This is to ensure the safety of civilian vessels and aircraft. China failed to provide any such notification to Australia before commencing the exercise. This disregard for international protocols further heightened concerns about China's behavior in the region. It demonstrated a willingness to disregard established norms and act unilaterally, even when it put civilian lives at risk. It undermined trust and increase the risk of miscalculation and escalation. The incident raised questions about the adequacy of existing international regulations governing military activities in international waters and airspace. It highlighted the need for stronger mechanisms to enforce compliance and ensure the safety of civilian traffic. Section 5. A failure to communicate. China's silence raises concerns. Adding to the gravity of the situation was China's failure to notify Australia or New Zealand about the live fire exercise. This breach of standard international protocol was a serious diplomatic misstep. It fueled suspicions about China's true intentions and raised questions about its commitment to regional stability. China did, however, provide advance notice of the exercise to Papua New Guinea. This selective notification appeared to be a deliberate attempt to drive a wedge between Australia and its Pacific neighbours. It was a tactic consistent with China's broader strategy of increasing its influence in the region. The lack of communication from China was in stark contrast to the transparency expected of responsible nations. It raised concerns about China's willingness to engage in dialogue and resolve disputes through diplomatic channels. This lack of communication only served to escalate tensions and deepen mistrust. The incident highlighted the need for clear and open lines of communication between China and other countries in the region. It underscored the importance of dialogue and diplomacy in managing tensions and preventing misunderstandings that could lead to conflict. Section 6. Rising tensions, the aggressive interception of an Australian aircraft. The live fire exercise was not an isolated incident. It came on the heels of another concerning encounter between Australian and Chinese forces. On February 11th, Chinese J-16 fighter jets aggressively intercepted an Australian P-8 Poseidon maritime patrol aircraft over the South China Sea. The Australian aircraft was conducting a routine surveillance flight in international airspace when it was intercepted by the Chinese jets. The Chinese pilots flew dangerously close to the Australian aircraft, releasing flares and chaff in a highly provocative manner. This aggressive interception was widely condemned as dangerous and unprofessional. It raised serious concerns about China's willingness to escalate tensions in the region and its disregard for freedom of navigation and overflight in international airspace. The incident was a reminder of the potential for miscalculation and escalation in the region. It highlighted the need for clear rules of engagement and communication protocols to prevent such incidents from escalating into conflict. Section 7. A calculated display of force, China's strategic intentions in the region. The Chinese task force near Australia was not an isolated event. It was part of China's assertive behaviour in the Indo-Pacific region. China aims to challenge the regional order and assert dominance. Its growing military power and assertive policy raise concerns. Countries like Vietnam, the Philippines, Taiwan, Japan and Canada report similar aggressive behavior. China's actions undermine the rules-based international order. This order, based on international law, constrains China's ambitions. The incident near Australia showed China's willingness to intimidate. It was a wake-up call for Australia and the region. Section 8. Australia caught off guard, a need for stronger defence and diplomacy. The events of February 2025 exposed significant vulnerabilities in Australia's defence and surveillance capabilities. The ADF's struggle to track the Chinese task force and the delayed response to the live fire exercise highlighted the need for increased investment in maritime domain awareness. Australia's diplomatic response to the incident was also criticised as being too weak. Some analysts argued that a more robust response, such as summoning the Chinese ambassador or cancelling high-level meetings, would have sent a stronger signal of resolve. The incident underscored the need for Australia to strengthen its defence posture and enhance its diplomatic efforts in the region. This includes increasing defence spending, investing in advanced military technologies, and deepening partnerships with like-minded countries. Australia's security and prosperity depend on a stable and rules-based regional order. The incident involving the Chinese task force was a stark reminder of the challenges facing the country and the need for a comprehensive and proactive approach to safeguarding its interests. Section 9. Bolstering Australia's defences, recommendations for a safer future. The incidents involving the Chinese task force provided valuable lessons for Australia. It highlighted the need for a comprehensive approach to strengthening the nation's defences and ensuring its security in a more contested Indo-Pacific. Firstly, Australia must prioritise enhancing its maritime domain awareness. This requires investing in advanced surveillance technologies, such as long-range maritime patrol aircraft, unmanned aerial vehicles and underwater sensors to provide real-time tracking of vessels operating in Australia's near region. Secondly, Australia should strengthen its naval capabilities. This includes acquiring new submarines, surface combatants and patrol vessels to enhance the Royal Australian Navy's ability to deter and respond to threats. Thirdly, Australia must deepen its defence partnerships, particularly with the United States, Japan, India and other like-minded countries in the region. This includes conducting joint exercises, sharing intelligence and developing interoperable defence capabilities. Finally, Australia needs to engage in robust diplomacy to promote a rules-based regional order and encourage China to act responsibly. This includes working with regional partners to uphold international law, freedom of navigation, and the peaceful resolution of disputes.